Ladies and gentlemen, NFL Week 15 is in the books. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to go through it, so stay tuned.
Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nikki Steves! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue, think they slate, dropping unrealistic mags, 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach, slip on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're having a great day. It's the early afternoon. I hope you're enjoying it. And with that being said, we decided to talk about Week 15. So we're going to start. We're doing this as always, both on the Hardcore Sports Network and my channel. There's a link to the Hardcore Sports Network. There's a link to my channel before we get this bad boy on the road and get started talking about this. Week 15 was certainly an interesting week. We had some playoff spots clinched, divisions clinched. We had some headlines to talk about. As always, we're going to start this off talking about the Thursday night game. Now, the game itself wasn't much of a good game. It was in sloppy weather. The Rams ended up winning against the 49ers. Now, we're going to talk about the 49ers a little bit for a second. Two big problems with them. One, throughout the season, it's been injuries. And secondly, with the 49ers, they've had about 4 games where they blew leads against division rivals up in the fourth quarter. That plays a huge role in them being 6-8 and being all but eliminated, with the small probability of them winning out and receiving some help from other teams losing to make the playoffs. But the big story for the 49ers was linebacker Devondre Campbell exited the game in the third quarter, refusing to play. Now, we've waited in the days since for an explanation as to why he left the game. And I was hoping that by Tuesday we'd get some explanation, so that way I could at least give a better take on it. Because when I first heard this, I was flabbergasted. And I thought I was having a dream, or I thought I was watching a movie or something, because it didn't seem real. It's one perfect example of the old expression, truth is stranger than fiction. And in this case, it's strange that Devondre Campbell would just exit the game refusing to play when he was called up to play. I still don't understand what. I mean, something's obviously will start off. Something's wrong with him in his head for you to make that decision. You're being called up as an NFL player to do your job and you exit the game. You refuse to do your job? That makes me wonder. I don't understand that one bit. You're a football player. What could possibly be running through that man's mind? You get paid to play linebacker in the National Football League. And remember something, being in the NFL is a privilege, not a right. You have the privilege of playing a sport you practice your whole life. You have the privilege of doing it for a living and making good money doing so. Because even if you don't have the highest salary, you're still making good money compared to a lot of the average Joes in this country, to a lot of people that are working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. So, Mr. Devondre Campbell, he's still making pretty good money compared to the average Joe. Even if it's not that great by NFL or by sports standards, period, you're still making pretty good money compared to a lot of people in this world. I mean, maybe you wish you got more playing time. Maybe you're not happy with the situation you're in with the 49ers. Now, we don't know for sure what's going on, but even if that's the case, even though let's just say he wasn't happy, you just screwed yourself over ultimately in the long haul, because now you got the reputation of being a quitter, of being undedicated to the game of football. And the 49ers have all but released him at this point because they removed his name from his locker in the locker room and they suspended him the rest of the season. So the fact that they removed his name from his locker is pretty much a foregone conclusion that once the season's over, they'll just pay him, and then let him go. Similar to what the Buccaneers did with Keyshawn Johnson years back, to what my team, the Eagles, did with Terrell Owens, where they just suspended / deactivated them for the remainder of the season, paid them up, and let them walk. So it's one of those situations again. For the young man, Devondre Campbell, words cannot describe just how ridiculous this was. The best way to put it, this is career suicide for the young man. Any hope you had of playing professional football, to me, it's pretty much ruined, because I think about what team's going to want this guy. What team's going to say, hey, I want a player that's going to quit mid-game? Nobody's going to do that. You're not going to have any luck finding a team with that mentality. And since it happened on a national platform, it's pretty much the death of his NFL career. Who's going to want to sign the guy? Think about it. If you put yourself in any sport, a sports executive, general manager, coach, whatever the case could be, a member of a professional sports team with some say in leadway and influence over who's on your roster, are you going to want a player that just walks out middle of the game? Not because of injury, not because of any disclosed mental illness or anything along those lines, but just get up and quit. No, I'm not playing. I don't want to. Bye-bye. When you're being paid to play, you're not going to want that person on your team. And at this point, there's no excuses for it, because there's no mental illness. There's no burnt out from the game excuse, because at least if it were something along those lines, you could have had a discussion during the middle of the week, sit down with your coach, or, and let them know that you feel it would be in both sides' best interest to part ways for the season. But he didn't even do that. He just walked out without explanation. We still haven't gotten one. And Nick Bosa went off on him for it, saying we can't have that in our locker room, basically. And he's right. You cannot bring that into a locker room and expect to win. Say what you want to say about Nick Bosa. You don't like some of his stances on social and political issues. But in this case, he's absolutely right, especially coming from a multi-time Pro Bowler who's the heart and soul of that defense. You definitely know a guy like that isn't going to tolerate this attitude. So say what you want to say about Bosa, but in this case, he's within his reason to call him out on and say, look, we got to part ways. And the 49ers are right to move on from him. And it's especially with this season, you've already dealt with injuries. You lost the heart and soul of your offense in Christian McCaffrey. And the Niners season without him at helm proves that he was the heart and soul of that offense. You've had that without him. You've dealt with other injuries. You've lost a lot of close division games that if you won some of those games, you'd be talking about a different story. The 49ers at least making the playoffs or possibly leading the division, which they're not. Last thing you need is a player dragging you down. The best thing to do is just get him out of there, move on. And at this point, 49ers likely are missing the playoffs, but get ready to move on for the offseason. But with that being said, it's a shame because it takes credit away from the Rams, who actually won the game. And now the Rams are tied with the Seattle Seahawks for the division, which is a shame because the Rams, instead of talking about the Rams finding ways to win games under pressure and keep their season alive, and talking about whether or not the Seahawks or Rams there could win that division. Instead, we're stuck talking about a player quitting on his team. But I don't want to ramble on too much about it. I just say 49ers move on. They have to. And with that, speaking of moving on, that's what I'm going to do right now. We'll talk about the Rams and Seahawks later, but we're going to talk on a more positive note about a team out south. In the AFC South, the Houston Texans clinched their division with a win over the Miami Dolphins. I mean, hey, the Texans, I mean, granted, is it a sloppy division? Yes, but hey, back-to-back years, you won that division. Hey, it's good for the Houston Texans. Because even though this year hasn't been a great year, they haven't played up to the hype, they still managed to win a majority of their games. They're guaranteed to finish with a winning record. And they've already won their division with a few weeks left. So there's something, you're doing something right if you're the Houston Texans, especially after several abysmal years. Now, here you are finally starting to go in the right direction. Now, CJ Stroud this year hasn't played as great as last year, but they played good enough. Joe Mixon has proved to be a good signing for the team. He's been a key component on the ground, and he proves that it was a huge mistake by the Cincinnati Bengals to part ways with him. So for the Houston Texans, sure, it's been a kind of a rough, slippery slope this season, but they still won 9 games. And remember, they hold a victory over the Buffalo Bills, who currently are Super Bowl contenders. So, hey, there's a threat there. The Houston Texans could win 1 or 2 games, maybe even pull off an upset in the divisional round somewhere along the line. But this Houston Texans team, I got to give credit. They stayed to it. They've had some ups and downs to the season, but they found ways to at least win 9 games. They're 5-2 at home, and they beat a Miami Dolphins team who haven't had a great season, but they're still a competitive team. They, by no means of the imagination, were a slouch team. Even with a losing record, the Dolphins, are still going to at least put up a challenge and a fight. And the Texans did what they had to win. They got 3 interceptions on Tua. They made him look like a chump in the clutch. So shout out to that Houston defense for doing what they had to in this game, putting the Dolphins away and winning their division. I mean, for the Texans, like I said, it's awesome. It's good for DeMeco Ryans. I'm glad for that fan base that after a few years of seeming hopeless, they've managed to turn things around. All it took, they finally was one good offseason last year. They got the right coach. They got the quarterback of the future in CJ Stroud. Things are finally starting to look up. You're just hoping that with CJ Stroud, he doesn't have the same off-the-field issues that the previous quarterback had. But hey. For the Houston Texans, congratulations. Things are looking up. But now we just got to see how it plays out from here with the divisions. We have to see with the wild card how it plays out, where the Texans land, and we'll go from there. But for the meantime, congrats to the Houston Texans. Now, moving on, we got another big story we're going to talk about in the AFC. Now, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs did beat the Cleveland Browns. They maintain first place in the conference, but it came at a cost. Patrick Mahomes suffered an ankle injury. As of now, he's listed week to week. Now, the key question is, what does this do for Kansas City in the coming weeks? Now, there's going to be some debate about it because people are going to say, the Houston Texans can still find ways to win games. Or not the Chiefs could still find ways to win games, et cetera, et cetera. But even though here's the thing to those people. Yeah, I know Patrick Mahomes hasn't had the greatest statistical season, but he's a multi-time Super Bowl MVP. If he retires today, he would be in the Hall of Famer. He'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer if he retired today. Sure, Patrick Mahomes hasn't had the greatest season, but hey, he's still a solid QB. Now, if Mahomes can't play, you have to rely on Carson Wentz for a few games, which, say this, if Carson Wentz, you put him in a situation where there's no pressure on the guy, okay, maybe he has a few decent games. Maybe you can survive with Carson Wentz for a few games, because we all know as Eagles fans, you'll see the good and the bad in Carson Wentz. And maybe with him in a backup role where there's no pressure on him to perform, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs will see the good in him, and they'll still, if they have to go a game or two without Mahomes, maybe they could still find ways to win. I look at their schedule coming up in the prospects that, okay, maybe Mahomes misses game. Well, they do have the Houston Texans coming up on Saturday. That's right, folks. We got some Saturday football. Now, maybe if he misses that game, I don't know, maybe there's it could be iffy with Wentz as a starter. Some people might think, okay, maybe with him not having pressure. But then again, now I think about it. Look, Mahomes is that guy that can win games. You know, he win games with whoever. Carson Wentz, he's not proven to be that guy. Now, so there's a possibility the Texans game. I don't know, though. The Texans could find a way to upset them if Mahomes can't play, but that's only a big if. And even if he does play, he might be less than 100%, but we'll have to see as the week plays out how that goes. So I think it'll ultimately be a game time decision. We're not going to really have an idea of how it's going to affect them until we get closer to the game. Then we'll see from there. And then you got the Steelers, of course, Christmas Day at 1 p.m. on Netflix. We'll see about those games. But I think it's going to be a day-by-day thing. We'll see as we get closer to the game whether Mahomes plays or not and go from there. With that being said, we're going to switch up a little bit. Just take a little quick break. I decided instead, I have a few video clips for you guys. I'm going to play a few video clips, take a quick break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more football about week 15. We're going to talk about the big games. We're going to talk about the Seahawks and Packers. We're going to talk about the Ravens pulling out another big win. We're going to talk about the Bills and Lions and more when I come back.
What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, bad boys.
To bring it down the back. Come on, write that down.
Say it again.
You put a king in a circus. The circus doesn't look like a palace.
No, what it look like?
The king looks like a clown.
You remember Christmas 2017?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was sitting there opening presents with my kids and families and everything, and I'm like, hey, I got to take this call. And they're like, come on, Dad, this is Christmas. I said, well, it's James Harrison. They could take that call. Can we get him? Can we get him? So, man, I didn't have you for long, but it was a lot of fun coaching. I learned a lot about power rushing, too. You were one of the best we've ever had.
Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate you giving me the chance to be there, and the time I spent there, I really did enjoy myself.
All right, folks, we're right back. Sorry to share those few clips. Keep you guys entertained. But now we're back after a minute, going to dive right back into the football talk. Now we're going to talk about one of the big games this week. And a surprise was the Buccaneers decimating the Chargers in the fourth quarter en route to a blowout win, because this was a bit of a surprise game. Because one, a lot of us, I'm sure, had the Chargers favorite. And secondly, it was a close, competitive game through the first couple quarters. Then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, the Bucs just took off. It all started with an interception, like late in there in the third quarter by Herbert. And then from there, Tampa Bay just took off. I mean, let me show you guys some real quick. Let's take a look at the screen. Give me one. So here we go. Let's take a look. So we started off. It was 7-7 the end of the first. Then at halftime, it was 17. Then it was 17-13 at halftime. Chargers. Then the Bucs score. Second half, Chargers didn't score a single point in the second half. Bucs scored 17 in the third and 10 in the fourth, en route to a 40-17 shellacking. I mean, holy smokes. You talk about, I don't know what at with the Chargers. To me, I'm trying to look at the Chargers game and figure out what went wrong. To me, the biggest problem, I think, is lack of reliable receivers is one of the big problems that hurt them, because Harbaugh decided to be a run-heavy team. He decided he was going to take that run-heavy approach from Michigan and bring it up to the NFL and expected to work with the Chargers, but that didn't happen. Instead, what happened was, they tried to go with the run heavy route, but now as the season's gone along, it hasn't really worked as well. And the Chargers don't really have reliable weapons in the passing game to work with. And it's come back to bite them, come back to hurt them. And in the meanwhile, you got Justin Herbert. He finally threw a pick, and I think if you look at the receiving, you got Lad McConey, Stone Smart, Quentin Johnson, DJ Chark Jr. I mean, none of those guys are really flashy names at receiver. So on one hand, this is the Chargers not really having weapons coming back to bite them. Meanwhile, the Bucs may not have the greatest team, but they still have future Hall of Famer Mike Evans. Cade Otton's still a decent weapon. Jake McMillan's still solid. The Bucs at least have some decent weapons. And the Bucs running game still as efficient as the season goes along with Bucky Irvin and Rashid White. And it was effective on Sunday. Though that's one of the big factors in this game. Hey, SGA Sports Talk channel, what is up? Thanks for stopping by. You Bay Area sports fan coming through. Thanks for your support. So now we got some more people kicking with the stream. Yes, sir. And we talk about the Bucs and Chargers. We recap in the biggest factors of this game. One of them is the Chargers' lack of ability to run the game. For a team with a run-heavy coach, they're doing a poor job being able to run the ball efficiently. Gus Edwards, 8 carries, 23 yards. And then you look at the Bucs, Bucky Irving and company. They ran the ball, Bucky Irving, Rashid White efficiently. And you had Mike Evans, 9 receptions, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. He was a huge difference maker in that Buccaneers offense. And that ties into the problem with the Chargers not having any big receivers. That plays a huge role in hurting them in this one. But the Bucs, even though Baker Mayfield, he's not the greatest quarterback in the league. He's a streaky quarterback. He'll have his good games. He'll have his moments where he flashes brilliance, but he'll have his head-scratching moments. He'll have his poor games. He'll have his poor decisions in the clutch. To me, Baker as a whole is an average QB. But with Baker, you also have those flashes of good when he has the right talent around him. And that's what happened Sunday with the Bucs. With another win, now they're 8-6. They're tied with the Falcons. They could potentially still win out or possibly still get the number 7 seed. But to me, they're going to have to win out the division because they're tied with the Falcons for first now that the Falcons beat the Raiders. But I think at this point, I'm more confident in the Bucs down the stretch than the Falcons. So I feel the Bucs could win out over the Falcons, get the number 4 seed, and host another home playoff game as the 4 seed for the 3rd straight year in a row. And for the Chargers, man, I think this is the offseason, like we said, of them not getting any big name receivers now coming back to haunt them late in the season. It's playing a factor in their games. Because now they dropped 2 straight. Broncos are ahead of them now as the 6th seed in the AFC. Chargers are the 7th seed. You get the 7th seed. As of now, you're looking like you're going to have to play Buffalo in the first round. And knowing the Chargers' track record in big games, that's not a favorable matchup for them if they go into the playoffs. But speaking of that, let's talk about now the Buffalo Bills defeating the Detroit Lions. Buffalo Bills still maintain grip as the number 2 team in the AFC. And now with the Bills defeating the Lions, Vikings are tied for the NFC North. But first, let's talk about that game of the week between the Bills and Lions. Excellent game between both teams. I mean, that's the type of games we need. We knew this was going to be a good game. A lot of experts said this was going to be a Super Bowl preview. Maybe, maybe not. But it was also a phenomenal game. So I attended the 49ers-Rams games on Thursday. And you said it's 1% chance of making the playoffs. That ties into what I was saying earlier, because I talked about it earlier at the beginning about, the win, the walkout. Give me one moment. I got you. All right, so I'm going to invite SGA Sports Talk channel into the stream. I'll post. Here you go. You can copy and paste. And whenever you're ready, I'll send you in. folks, so we're about to get SGA Sports Talk channel about to come in here and chat with us. So I'm going to have a special guest in just a moment. And while we're still waiting on it, I'm going to give a quick word on the Bills-Lions game. Obviously game of the week, and the Buffalo Bills, man, Josh Allen again. To me, this signified his case for the MVP. If anyone else, I could always do that via Twitter DM, or if other people copy and paste it, they could join in. So it is possible to invite multiple guests. Another way you can do it, because I'm doing this through the Hardcore Sports Network. People can join the StreamYard, can join via StreamYard if they're logged in. All right, so we'll give it a moment. Let's just see if he stops by. But in the meantime, so the Bills, it's another great performance by Josh Allen. To me, this puts up his case for the MVP candidate right there. This puts up his case because now he's had he had multiple passing touchdowns and multiple rushing touchdowns for the second week in a row. So Josh Allen is having himself a phenomenal game. So Josh Allen's having himself a phenomenal year. This is like the fourth time he's had multiple rushing and passing touchdown games. It ties into what I said about his case for MVP. He's playing like a hybrid of Peyton Manning in the passing game, Michael Vick in the ground game. It's just one of those years for Josh Allen. He's been on point all season long. Sorry for the pauses. I got checking something else. But, man, what a phenomenal year for Josh Allen. He once again put forth his case for the MVP all season long. This is easily Josh Allen's best season he's had statistically. You've seen he's drastically reduced the interceptions. He's been efficient in the running and passing game. Even as an Eagles fan, I wanted to put my case for Saquon as MVP, but I got to be realistic. Josh Allen, based off, number one, that he's a quarterback, that quarterbacks usually get the MVP. And secondly, based off the way he has been playing lights out this season, clearly the best quarterback in the NFL, consistently throughout the season, he's MVP to me. He is the MVP 100% as of right now. Now, unless Josh Allen has a slump over the next couple games and Saquon dominates and he's the main reason the Eagles win, I see as of today Josh Allen being the MVP. Another excellent performance on offense. And for the Lions, Jared Goff had himself a good day with 5 touchdown passes. The Lions offense, they waited till the fourth quarter to really get going, but they still found a way to at least put up over 40 points. So I got to give the Lions credit as well for a good effort. Just one of those games, Buffalo was the better team on that day. Mostly an offensive game. Not to mention, got to give James Cook credit. He had 14 carries for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Buffalo's off. The biggest difference in this game was Buffalo's offense dominated both the run and the pass aspect, whereas the Lions struggled on the run. So as far as the defenses goes, one thing I'll give credit for, the Bills defense actually managed to stop Buffalo's or Detroit's run game. So that's at least some semblance of defense for fans, fans of the old school defense wins championships mentality. You at least got the Bills' run defense showed up, but overall, man, this was just a great offensive battle between the two top teams, possibly a rematch in the Super Bowl this year. But hey, man, but great all-around game. Congrats to the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, like I said, phenomenal performance again, continues to prove his case for MVP. And for Jamar, for Detroit Lions, it was a good game. They were bound to lose eventually, and it just happened. But hey, man, congrats to the Buffalo Bills. They did what they had to do. They took care of business. And as of right now, I'd say they're the real best team in the AFC. Even though Kansas City has the better record, I think if you put those teams head to head, this might finally be the time Buffalo could beat Kansas City in a big game. Maybe. With that being said, I'm going to step aside for another quick short break, put some music in the background, and I'll be right back. Yo, welcome.
Hey, Nikki.
Hey, what's up?
It's great joining the stream.
Hey, thanks
I've
for stopping by, man.
I haven't checked out your content. How often do you go live on your channel?
My channel usually about four times a week. Usually Eagles recap early in the week, the NFL weekly recap. Usually I talk about the non-Eagles games because I spend a whole stream dedicated to the Eagles games, so I decided to use the NFL weekly stream to talk about, the other events going on in the league that week. And then I got Pick and Roll Podcast, which is on my channel, Hardcore Sports Network. The few other co-hosts, Mitch Kofsky, Blaze Radio, Rios from Just Fans Podcast, on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then at the end of the week, I'll do an Eagles preview before their upcoming matchup. Go 4 times.
There were a lot of great games around all the world of the NFL. There were a lot of really great games to watch. The Rams and the Niners game, that I was actually at that game at Levi's. That game was like hard to watch, man, because we didn't even score a single touchdown in that game. That game was all on field goals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I didn't actually see it, but I know it was a slot. I caught bits of it, highlights. It was a sloppy game, and I know you guys must have been mad about, your linebacker walking out.
If you ask me, I think the Colts and the Broncos game was way more entertaining than the 49er game, because the Broncos put up like a lot of points on Indianapolis, so that was like worth watching rather than the Niners game. That was just a slog fest, not even entertaining at all.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like it to me. I don't doubt you one bit. I certainly believe that. At least with the Broncos and Colts, some of the highlights were entertaining. We did get one good comedy play out of it with the failed flea flicker turned into a pick six. That was funny to watch.
But as a 49er fan, us not making the playoffs this year is definitely not something that I was expecting to see, because I was expecting to see us make it to the Super Bowl and win it and get our 6th Lombardi trophy.
Yeah,
but we'll have to wait next year for that.
Yeah, I know you guys must be disappointed. I'll definitely let you take the floor on that one, because a lot of us, not just 49ers fans, but football fans, we expected the Niners to be a top team. Going into the season, it was the perspective of Lions, 49ers, Eagles, if they get it back together, would be the top teams. And only 2 of those 3 actually ended up being top teams in the NFC, and they're tied for home field advantage as of today. The other one is all but eliminated.
So first of all, I wanted to say I really like your YouTube channel. I'm gonna subscribe. I don't know if I'm subscribed or not, but if I'm not, I'll subscribe to your channel. I love all your content, all your videos. You try and go live consistently, which I really appreciate. I try and go consistently as well on my channel as well. I'm not making a lot of content, so I'm trying to produce more content so I can get more subs on my channel and get monetized and get super chats and all that stuff on my channel. So I'm trying to go live consistently, but sometimes I'm really busy, so I can't really go live that much, which is not really something I like, because I want to get more I want to get my channel out there as much as I can, so people can subscribe to it and get me some likes and some follows.
Right, I understand myself. Hey, I got a busy life outside of YouTube, between work, trying to stay in shape, and other financial obligations. So I understand. I respect the fact that you're at least dedicated to uploading as often as you can and taking that time out your day that you have to dedicate to YouTube. So I understand. I respect what you're doing, man.
And
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 thanks
and
for
moving on
stopping by.
to week 16, which games are you looking forward to watching in week 16? Moving on after week 15 in the NFL, are you looking to any games that you really interest you, or you kind of like you're just gonna go with the flow and watch whichever games kind of interest you?
I'm just going to take a quick look at the Week 16 schedule. I got it. So you got Kansas City, Houston. That's an interesting game. Even the Chargers and Broncos, because that could be the difference between the 6 or 7 seed. And you got Pittsburgh, Baltimore. They got. We start off with a good Thursday and 2 good Saturday games. I'm looking at Sunday right now. I don't see any Minnesota, Seattle. That has a little bit of interest, a little bit. And some of the Sunday games, I mean, mostly the games I'm interested are the 2 Saturdays, Thursday night game. Some of the other games around here, not really drawing a whole lot of interest to me. I mean, some of the games like Seattle, Minnesota might be a decent game. Even the Cowboys and Bucks could still might be a watchable nighttime game. And I'm looking like again, you got Jaguars, Raiders for the Tank Bowl. That's more of a comedy game. And like some of the other games kind of feel like filler games to me.
I mean, like the Raiders can literally give up their season right now because they're the worst. They're looking like the worst team in the NFL right now. Like with how their season's looking right now, they don't even have any of their players anymore. Like they don't have Jacobs anymore. They don't have Aiden O'Connell's injured. Gardner Minshew's injured. He's out for the rest of the season on IR. They only have Desmond Ritter. I don't think Ritter is looking that good. Everybody was putting more thoughts on O'Connell that he looks a much better QB than Ritter. Raider fans really like O'Connell, but I mean, I don't know how Ritter's gonna do by himself because they don't have another quarterback and they're trying to look for a QB right now, and they don't have a QB right now. So I don't know if they're gonna look in the market for a QB, potential QB for the Raiders to sign, to back up Ritter.
I feel the biggest mistake they made was not going for a quarterback in the draft, especially when it was a first round filled with quarterbacks. They should have at least traded up, at least tried to get somebody, but they ultimately didn't. And I remember after, most of the main quarterbacks went off the board yet. McCarthy, Daniels, Drake May, and all those guys went off the board. I'm thinking Raiders should have moved up and gotten somebody. And they ultimately didn't. And now you see the effects it's having on this team. They only got 2 wins. They're looking like they could have the number 1 pick in the draft.
I mean, to me, like the NFL is like a big trade market, and there's all these great quarterbacks that teams could sign, but they don't go out and sign a great quarterback. They like sign a quarterback that has no experience at all. He has nothing. He can't lead a team at all, and like he has no experience at all.
Right. And then I looked at the Gardner Minshew one. I thought Gardner Minshew is just a mid-tier quarterback at best. We've seen some flashes from Minshew, but when was the last time Minshew consistently put together a hot streak and made you believe that he could lead a team? I never saw that. So when they signed him, I thought, what the hell are they doing? That's not the long-term answer. And then you have injuries on top of it, and O'Connell not being able to stay healthy. Then you got Desmond Ritter, who struggled in Atlanta with better receivers. That's not a recipe for success. Also,
I mean, for me as a 49er fan, my team is plagued with so many injuries. Like we have so many injured players on our roster. CMC's out for the rest of the season. Ayuk's out. So we're struggling right now. And like, if the Niners have so many injuries on their roster, how are we gonna win? Like, how are we gonna survive with all these injuries? Like, I know injuries are like evident in the game of sports. Players are gonna get injured, but it's just like the Niners are just having such a terrible year. Like, looks like this is not their year. So maybe next year is gonna be their chance, but it looks like this year it's not their chance. Like they failed miserably.
Yeah, I mean, this year definitely with the expectations you had of it possibly being Super Bowl favorites, or to at least either win the Super Bowl or at least get back to it. To only have 6 wins, getting closer to Christmas, which is like the end of the season, that's a huge letdown. But injuries, certainly play a factor in that, man. There's only so much a team can do to overcome it. I mean, to give you guys credit, you've tried your best, but you're ultimately handicapped with all those injuries, especially Christian McCaffrey, who was the heart and soul of that offense, as well as so many other players. And yeah, you tried your best. I mean, give credit to Shanahan. They tried their best to make it work. They did their best with the run game, but just did not have the same spark in the offense without Christian McCaffrey, who can run and was a great option in the passing game on those screen passes. Without that, just wasn't the same for you guys on offense. And plus, another key factor was blowing a lot of fourth quarter leads in close games against division rivals that could have changed your record.
So for the 49ers, they do have 3 games remaining on their season. They have the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Cardinals, which are 3 great teams. I mean, all those teams are probably going to make it to the playoffs, but for me, I don't think that even if the Niners win those 3 games in their 3 games, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. Even if they win all 3 of those games and win out, they're probably not going to make it.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Because they do have 3 games remaining, and they do have 3 games left before they end the season. And I still don't think that they're gonna make it, even if they win all 3 of those games against Miami, Detroit, and Arizona.
Right. Yeah, I do agree with you there because because I look at the NFC standings right now, you have the Lions, Vikings. Both those teams are going to be in the playoffs. One of them could possibly have home field or the 2 seed, other the 5 seed. Then you're talking likely the Packers 6, Washington most likely the 7th seed. So the way those teams are playing, it's definitely likely those teams are going to at least get in the playoffs. Probably going to be most likely Minnesota 5, Green Bay 6, and then Washington 7 at this point.
So, if you want to see the Niners make it to the playoffs next season, what are some tips you give them? Because looks like fans have rooted this team on for so long, and looks like they've been let down every single year. The Niner fans have been let down every single year, which is not such a great thing because I try and go to the games as much as possible to Levi's. I try and go to like maybe 2 or 3 games every year. And it's just not looking like my team is looking so good this year. Like we're not having such a great year. And it hurts me to say that, but like I just have to say the truth. Like the reality is that the Niners are not looking good this year. And they have to play better. And they're not playing better. With all the injuries that plague our team, CMC out, Brandon Ayuk out to the IR. So we still have Kittle, we still have, Samuel, but it's only something they can do with the injuries that we have.
Right. Hey, I mean, there's only so much you can do without those guys. And the best thing you can do at this point is give yourselves the off season, get those guys back for next year. And when they're fully healthy, see what they can do. Because you've been down this road before. I remember 2018, you guys lost a lot of players due to injury. You landed Nick Bosa, but then you came back the next year healthy, made a run to the Super Bowl. 2020, a lot of injuries and COVID, but came back more healthy the next year, started to pull late season turnaround, made the playoffs, got to the conference championship. Then, from there you started to excel with McCaffrey in 2022. So the point being is after a bad season, you can just always brush it behind you, come back the next year. And now even with my team, the Eagles, even though last year they made the playoffs, it was a disappointing season considering they were Super Bowl favorites and they finished the season looking like a bottom team that only made the playoffs because of their hot start and got blown out in the wild card round. What the Eagles did, just put it behind them, found some, found the right pieces. Now, granted, it's a different situation. Eagles was mostly coaching, and they fixed that up, and play calling, which they fixed up, as well as getting Saquon. But even with the 49ers examples, like I said, you've had it happen in the past where injuries hinder you, but you just put it behind you, come back the next year stronger. Maybe, if you take advantage of that draft pick you get, find yourself someone that can help you in the future.
So my thoughts on the Devondre Campbell situation, where he quit on the field, that was, you don't do that in a football game. You don't do things like that. You don't leave and quit on your teammates. Like, your teammates are there for you. You're supposed to be there for your teammates, and you're supposed to play the whole game. And him leaving the field was like, everybody said, like, even Kittle said that I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Charvarius Ward said I've never seen anything like that in my life. Everybody said that you don't do that on a football field. I know, like, when your team is losing, I know, like, you have no hope, but you can't just leave. I mean, it's like I was at the game, but I didn't see him leave the field, but they had it all over social media, all over the internet. They all, like, told about it. What were your thoughts about it? Like, do you think it was a horrible move for him to just storm off the field in the third?
I feel it's career suicide, basically, because for the 49ers, why are you going to bring back a guy that just quit on you? Obviously, you got to move on from that guy. And from Campbell's point of view, who's going to want to sign a guy that openly quit on his team mid-game without any real explanation? There was no, sit down with the coaches where he said, hey, I'm feeling mentally burnt out. I'm dealing with some personal issues. It would be best for both sides to part ways for the remainder of the season. That's a different story if you actually sit down because you're having some emotional issues. You tell the coaches it's better if we just both part ways for the rest of the year. You can work around that, whether they bring you back or you get signed by another team once you've had time to get your mind right, or if it's due to injuries and you decide it would be best for both parties to shut me down for the remainder of the year. That's one thing, but to just quit with no explanation, it's hard to say because we don't have an example to go off of to explain this. And he hasn't provided an explanation for why he quit for us to be able to back off of it. It's really odd and strange. And it's like, we're still waiting for an explanation as to what was he thinking, what was going on in his mind. And I haven't heard anything.
And for me, I don't even understand why you would do that, because, like, when players do something, there's something in their mind that's going on, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to play with this team. I don't feel like we can meld together and gel together, and he leaves. I don't know why he left, but people were just really upset. People were ripping Campbell. Even John Lynch, the general manager of the 49ers, was also telling Campbell that, get off my team. Like, I don't want, like, if you're doing these things on my team, pulling these type of things, and I don't want you on my team. Like, even Lynch was, like, fired up. He was saying, like, you're a member of this 12-man roster. You're on this team. You're committed to being on this team for, like, your whole career. You want to be on this team, and you leave. What is that gonna do to the fans? The fans don't want to buy your jersey. The fans don't want to support you. The fans don't want to do anything. I don't think the fans are gonna want to buy his jersey after what type of stunt he pulled off and left the field. They don't want to buy his merch. And I totally understand that you don't want to buy his jersey. Like, you don't even look at that name. You want to erase that name out from your memory.
Yeah,
You don't even want to buy his jersey because, like, you buy his jersey, it's gonna haunt you because he just, he left the field in the middle of the game.
Exactly. And then for the organization and for the players, why would you want to play with a guy who's not going to be there? Because I'm looking at it from the organizational standpoint, thinking if I was the owner, that's what I said earlier in the stream. I'm going to reiterate. If I was in the position of a coach, a manager, general manager, owner, somebody with leadway and seniority in the organization, and this happens, I'm going to want to disassociate from the player because there's no good that can come out of that situation long term. It's like, Let's just move on from this player and let's get ready. Let's just move on, put it behind it. We can
Like
find
what
somebody replaceable.
Campbell did. It's kind of a similar situation. Like if you're ever at work and you got in an altercation with another coworker or somebody that you work with closely, and you cursed them out and you swear them out and you said something and you assaulted them and you punched them, and then they found out what you did, and then they looked into your records and they found out that, look, this guy said something to this guy cursed and assaulted and punched this guy, like, he's not working for my company, he's banned from working for this company, he's never coming back here again. This guy, if we see him on the premises, we'll call security and get him off of the premises. That's exactly what will happen to Campbell. If Campbell ever comes back on the Niners premises, if he ever walks back on the premises, he's gonna get, he's gonna get some he's gonna get, he's gonna be in trouble if he ever tries to come back on to the premises on the 49ers premises. He's gonna get in big trouble if he ever tries to get back on you after getting suspended and banned from the league. And if he ever tries to come back here, he's gonna get in big trouble. Like, he's gonna face the music if he ever tries to come back on the premises on the 49ers practice field, or if he ever comes back into the stadium on the field, he's going to get in big trouble. Like, he's going to think about if he ever tries to come back on to this organization.
To me, I compare that. I get the work comparison. I would compare it more to a workspace with an employees only area. If somebody like just walks out and quits on the company, obviously you're going to fire them. You don't want them back. And obviously, from the company's viewpoint, you feel like they kind of quietly told us they don't want to be here. So let's just get rid of them. It's better for both parties. We can move on. Now, in the case of violence, it's a little different with violence because Campbell, he didn't really do anything violent. It's just one of those things. I'd compare it to employee only spaces at a workshop place. Once somebody openly quits on you guys, obviously they're not going to be allowed in an employee only area. The only places he might be allowed is the stands if he buys a ticket, pretty much.
But even if he sits in the stands, I don't think fans would want to be next to somebody who pulled off such a horrible stunt.
Oh yeah, right. Definitely from that viewpoint. Yeah, obviously the fans would boo and heckle him, and there is the risk of an altercation. But for the 49ers, if they, like, if say he were to pay for a ticket, which I don't see that happening, the 49ers organization's like, okay, we got the money for the ticket. Just as long as there's no altercation, or we'll have security close by, but I doubt that's even going to happen. So they're probably not going to have to
for
worry
me,
about
when you look at like Kittle or Purdy, or they don't, I've never seen them do anything what Campbell did. They're so self-composed and stuff like that they never even, I've never seen Purdy pull up something like that. He's so composed that he would never do anything like that. Like, he would never pull something like that. He would be if Purdy did that, he would be hated. People would hate him for him doing that if he ever did that. They'll say, "Why would you're a quarterback? Why would you do that?"
I mean, any player, if they just openly walked out on a team, is going to get cut, no matter who it is. Kind of similar to what Antonio Brown did a few years back when he walked out on the Bucs. It's just like, okay, nope, we got to cut him. No, that's kind of a different story, but still, it is
But for
similar
Antonio
that
Brown,
openly walked out. Like, nope, he's done.
for Antonio Brown, that was the worst situation somebody could do. He at least Campbell didn't take his gear off and throw it on the field, but Antonio Brown took his gear off and his helmet and threw it. He went over the top. He went overboard. Like, he lost it completely. At least Campbell, like, he just walked off the field. He didn't take his gear off, or he didn't throw the gear on and kind of get violent. But Antonio Brown got violent. He took his gear off. He took his helmet off, threw his shirt into the crowd, and got crazy. Walked off the field. Like, he got violent. I mean, that was a completely different situation, but he got violent. He might have just but Campbell didn't do that. He just took his helmet off and walked off the field, and, like, that's it.
That's all he did.
Now, yes, in that regard, it's true they went about quitting in different ways. The one similarity, though, it does has is that it's two players quitting and the team deciding to part ways with them. That's what I was pointing to. But with that being
And
said,
like
I want to ask you: are there any like closing thoughts you have about him walking out?
my closing thoughts about him walking out. I thought that it was a it was a hor it was the worst decision by a player to just randomly walk off the field without giving any reason of why you're walking off the field. And I've seen a lot of times when players walk off the field. I saw on TV when the reporter asked the player why you did it, and he doesn't get he like he doesn't give anything, and he says like he just like disdains her and walks off and doesn't even like why did you like the reporter asked why did you walk off the field, and then Campbell says I don't want to answer that question, please move on, let me walk off, this is my decision, I made the decision to walk off field, it's not your like you don't have to worry about me. And then he says like I don't feel comfortable answering that question, can you please just leave me alone, because the reporter wants to ask why you did that. And Campbell might have said that I don't like why you asking me that question, that was my decision to do that, I made that decision, I made the wrong decision, that's up to me, leave that up to me. Like why are you concerned about me? Like if I did something, then I'll face the music, I'll face the consequences.
So,
So
thanks for
he's
providing. You gonna finish? You got more?
um so I was saying that I'm currently at 275 subs on my channel. I'm trying to get to 300 subscribers by the end of the year. So if people could click the like and subscribe button for my channel and click on that notification bell so they can update it the next time I go live. I'm trying to get to 300. I'm trying to get up there on YouTube so I can start doing a hangout stream, because I'm trying to do a hangout stream on my channel after I reach 300 subs. But I really like your channel. I really like all your content and videos. I'm gonna subscribe right now when I get off this stream. Um but um I would love to come on your channel in the future. If you would kindly put that link in the chat, and I'll click on the link and join the show. But um, I really like everything you're doing on the Hardcore Sports Network. All the guys are doing great too. Mitch Kofsky is doing really good. Blaze is doing really good. I really like all your content. But it was great coming on the show. Sharing my insights on all the games that have been taking place in week 15 and moving on into week 16. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, Nikki, and I'll look forward to joining your show maybe another time.
Okay, and I did right there that I did put it in the chat, the link to my channel if you want to copy it into your browser.
I'll make sure to subscribe to your channel after I leave this stream.
All right, man.
I hope you have a great rest of
All right,
your
you too.
morning.
All right, you too. Take care, man.
See ya.
All right. All right, so shout out to SGA Sports Talk Chat for stopping by. And before we go, do want to close this thing out talking about the winners and losers from week 15 of the NFL season. The big winners in this one start with my team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Went through it yesterday, defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers. 10-game winning streak, longest streak in franchise history. Another win against the top team, and now they're tied with the Detroit Lions, potentially having a chance at home field advantage. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen having himself a great game. Rolling, playing like an MVP. Great performance by Josh Allen. And the Buffalo Bills taking care of business. Minnesota Vikings had an excellent game, winning again. It is against the Chicago Bears, but a win's a win. Now you're tied with the Detroit Lions. You potentially have a shot at home field advantage. We also saw Justin Jefferson did a tribute to Randy Moss, who acknowledged he's a cancer survivor. So shout out to Randy Moss for surviving cancer. We all back you up on that one. Cancer. And so great job by the Vikings. They're winners in this one as well. Also, I'd say the Rams winners too, because they, now they're tied. They have a shot at winning the NFC West. and they're like I got some winners. The other big winner is the Green Bay Packers. They found a way to win. They have still have, I mean, I don't think they're going to win the division, but they build momentum potentially for a playoff game, potentially get that win. So those are my 5 winners. The recap real quickly. Hello, Greg and John stopping by. Thanks for stopping by. Always stops by my streams. If you're wondering where we're at, we mostly went through most of the games. Here are the main headlines from the games. Now I'm going to briefly going through the winners and losers from week 15. Recap, my 5 main winners I went with are the Eagles, of course, Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, and the Los Angeles Rams for staying in contention, possibly still having a shot at winning the division in a home playoff game. Losers from week 15, well, the 49ers, their season's all but done. I got to go with the Seahawks because they lost Geno Smith due to injury, and they played a sloppy game against the Green Bay Packers. Now their shots at winning the division with the Rams creeping up are looking bad. There's another loser right there. A lot of bad teams this year. That's true. Another loser for the week are the Chargers dropping a blowout game against the Bucks that was competitive in the first half, and all of a sudden the Chargers, like they forgot how to play football in the second half. And now they fell to the 7th seed with the Broncos, who are an honorable mention for a big winner for the week, ahead of them in the playoff seeding. Now the Chargers now I'm doubting if the Chargers can even beat the Broncos. So there's another loser. I was going to go with I can't really consider the Detroit Lions losers, even though they lost, because, hey, they did put up a fight. The Lions put up a fight, just the Buffalo Bills got the better of them. But another big loser is the Raiders, not just this week, but the whole season. I mean, you went against the Falcons team that's struggling, and you still couldn't close the deal on them. And another loser, surprisingly, even though they won, I'm going to go with the Commanders as a loser because, hold up 1 second. I'll go with the Commanders because even though they won, they almost blew that game against the Saints. They had to rely on a failed 2-point conversion to save the game.
Hey, Nikki.
Hey, welcome back.
So when
Did
I
you
was
have
at the 49er game, and I'm a big fan of Deebo Samuel. He's one of my favorite players on the team. And when I saw him at the game, it kind of heartbroke me because he was dropping so many passes, and he wasn't having such a great game. And all the fans were saying like they should, like, if he's not having a great season, then they should end up trading him from the team because he's, and some fans really displeased why he changed the number from 19 to 1. Maybe he had a son, so maybe that's the reason why he changed the number from number 19 to number 1. Like, he's Deebo Samuel Sr., and then he was just Deebo Samuel before. But it's just like I don't understand why he changed it. Like, some players have some type of family background or something, or some kind of family ties or something like some reason of why they changed their number to like why they're like no longer having their original number. What were your thoughts? Like, were you kind of surprised when he changed his number from 19 to 1, or were you like it was kind of like he's a father now, so he wants
I'm
to
not
like
really
be,
worried
like,
about it. To me, it is what it is. If they want to do that, that's their business and that's their decision. That's
But,
not
like,
my place to judge players. Let them do whatever they want to with that. As
But,
long as
like,
they're not
for
doing
me-
anything illegal or hurting the team, hey,
But for me, I really like 19 because for me as a Devo fan, he had more success with 19. Like, he 19 was his number, and he had more success in the last years when there were the 2021 Niners and 2022 Niners. He had number 19. So for me, as a fan, I really like 19 because I think 19 was a much better number than 1. But it's not really my place to interject whether
sorry to cut you
uh,
off real quickly. I mean, I do appreciate you stopping by, but I just realized I'm kind of short on time with my schedule. So again, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you supporting my channel and stopping by to the stream, as well as I appreciate Greg and John, everyone else that stopped by. So on a final note, shout out to SGA Sports Talk channel and everyone else that stopped by for the stream. I'll plan on uploading this thing to Spotify later in the day. So with that being said, everyone have a great rest of your day or night if you're watching it on the replay. Until next time, Nicky Stees, SJ Sports Talk channel. I'll share his link when I subscribe to him in my community tab. Catch you next time. Peace.